my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Scott Jackson. There was a nice write-up in our newsletter, so I'm going to read mostly that and very interesting things. Scott Jackson is a member of the Fellowship of the Inner Light, yes, who holds a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity engineering and is currently pursuing a master's degree in consciousness studies. His academic and professional journey bridges a wide range of disciplines, including artificial intelligence, cognitive science, psychology, and computer science. In addition to his technical background, Scott draws insight from spiritual and philosophical traditions, including the teachings of Paul Solomon and the Edgar Cayce readings, integrating both scientific and metaphysical perspectives in his work. This talk is about artificial intelligence, where it stands today, where it may lead us in the future, and how it both differs from and resembles us as human beings. He will explore its current abilities and potential growth, and what these changes could mean for the way we live, work, and understand ourselves, while also reflecting on the ethical, moral, and spiritual connections between AI and humanity. Let us open our hearts and minds to hear today's message, and welcome Scott.
Thank you, everyone. So that was a nice write-up that I wrote in. We'll see if we can get to all of that today. I had to rewrite this a couple times just to sort of dumb it down a bit technically and then also fit it within like a good time slot. But thank you all for being here and coming to listen to me today at the Fellowship. So my talk is going to be about computers and artificial intelligence, and then in the end I want to share like a more so futurist sort of view on where I think AI might go and where that technology should be headed. So for my whole life, I've either sort of worked or played with electronics since a young age through like video games, TV, computers, things like that, and even in school it was very sort of technologically integrated by the time I got to like elementary school and middle school. So when I was choosing a degree in college, cybersecurity engineering just really stood out to me. So cybersecurity is the practice of protecting computers, networks, and programs and data from like theft, damages, or unauthorized access. In the digital world, it's about keeping information safe. This could mean stopping hackers from stealing credit card numbers, protecting hospitals from ransomware attacks, or ensuring that critical systems like our power grids and like airplanes are secure and safe for our use. Another part of cybersecurity is making sure that new technologies are integrated safely and efficiently into our systems. So while I was completing my undergraduate degree and studying, I was exploring the capabilities of AI at that time. And for the most part, we were looking at like monitoring data systems, seeing how it can do oversight and more efficiency work. We looked at a little bit of the LLMs, which we'll talk about later, the learning language models, which are the chatbots, ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, all those sort of things that we mostly use or are most active now. And then also self-automated cars. That was really the big form of study that at least my university was focused on when I was in school, is how we can get self-driving cars to be more efficient and how we can use AI models to read the actual environment, to pick up things in pictures and make actual cohesive sense out of it so they're not crashing into things all the time. But so fast forward to the end of 2022, I just graduated, and in 2023, January 2023, so a month later, OpenAI just released ChatGPT, and it took the world over by storm, unleashing all new levels of possibilities and capabilities within this field. It was finally acceptable or accessible to the consumer. So with my first interaction with ChatGPT, I wasn't really sure what to expect or what I would be getting from it. My first project, though, was to create a Carl Jung-based AI, put this sort of persona in there, and see if I couldn't have my own digital therapist that I could talk to instead of actually paying for it. But and it worked pretty good, actually. The AI, it was pretty well understood. If you prompt it and tell it to be like Carl Jung, then the machine itself will go online, study as much as it can about Carl Jung, and try to become that persona and be that person to you. And I got a lot of like really deep and insightful questions, especially as I trained it to ask me questions back. So it was the communication, the back and forth with the AI that really sort of unlocked it or opened the capabilities for this more, personal chat sort of bot. But that was just at the beginning. Now we can use AI for a whole bunch of different things or have a lot of different views for it. But I really do think that the role-playing potential of AI is what we should be focusing on now and what the future will focus on too. Really creating these personas, these like sort of medical interpreters. It can be like anything like a telemarketer, sales, like any sort of avenue you can create a persona for, put a person, an idea into it, and it will start spewing out the information. So you tell the AI who it is and what it knows, and it will deliver surprisingly accurate and useful knowledge. So that moment really stuck with me, working with the AI bot with the Carl Jung interpreter, and then I was prompted to place that if you prompt this AI in the proper environment and give it like the valuable insights, you can always get that well thought out sort of information, and you can continue to train it on itself and train it with other things too. So a lot of my sort of earlier study and research work was then to have the Carl Jung bot train another AI bot, just talk back and forth to each other and see what information they can come out from it. And that was also very insightful. It was definitely a lot of seeing how these machines think and move their minds is how I like to see it. But it's a little bit different than that because machines are not necessarily people, but we do have a similar consciousness or movement of electrical currents is how I see it between the AI and then our own brains. And I'll get in that a bit more too. But in this talk, I want to explore this artificial intelligence, where it stands today, where it's going to lead into our future, what we as human beings can do with it, and what it is sort of doing right now in our space. So what is AI really? So if I had to describe AI as a person, I'd say it's a very eager student with an incredible memory, can't forget anything almost, but with no real understanding. Imagine a child who could read every book in the library overnight and repeat every word back perfectly to you, but it has no real clue what it's actually talking about. It just knows it's giving you the right answer. So AI doesn't really dream, it doesn't really feel, it doesn't have intuition as far as we can tell. Instead, it's more like a mirror. It will perfectly reflect the patterns in our language as we give it to them and try and spin it back to us in what it's been trained to be the right way. It's all based off its own personal training and what it's told is right or wrong. So it's going off of its own internal system. This can be used to recreate human art, human language, and even human behavior in a lot of systems too. And which is why it may feel so human sometimes when you talk to it. There are cases now of, we call it sort of AI psychosis, where people have been communicating with these chatbots so much that they really think it's a human being, and they're really getting lost in these conversations and losing themselves into it and needing psychiatric help because of it. So there is some really serious sort of, I guess, consequences that are coming out of this technology right now, and just the communication aspect alone, not even the sort of cybersecurity stealing your information, just talking to it can hurt you in some ways. But there's a key difference between AIs and humans, and which is that while AIs can recognize patterns, we bring the meaning to it. So this is how we work together. The AI will, as we talk to it, pull up all these patterns and can lead to all these confusions, but it's us interpreting it, the information it's giving us, that provides the meaning. So if we were to talk to the AI and it were to give us sort of maybe a really deep metaphysical sort of talk, like the nature of God or reality, and if you don't like the answer, it's your personal meaning of the answer that is what's going to be affected. The AI does not care. The AI is not particularly concerned about your opinions. There and back to it. It will take them and it will edit its words to try and make it more critique to what you like. But for the most part, it is just trying to provide information, have you gain meaning from it, and then trying to learn off of your own meaning from it. That's a lot of what the AI is. It's really just trying to learn right now, all logic-based. So this is what we would call a large language model, or an LLM. It's like ChatGPT, and these are computer programs that are trained to read and write like humans. Trained to read and write like humans. They're not humans. They learn by reading huge amounts from books and texts, websites, articles, basically everything on the internet. ChatGPT or most AI systems have already tried to look through and read and gain knowledge from or information, and then try to see how they can explain this information back to people is their main job. So over time, by seeing millions of examples, they get really good at making guesses and really good at giving answers. So much so that it's sometimes hard for us to tell the difference between them. And there are full paragraph explanations, or even have the ability to hold conversations with people. It's just getting that well. And inside the LLM, there's something that we call a transformer system. So this is a way of saying that the machine is just paying close attention to all the words in a sentence, and is trying to understand and relate them to each other. So it doesn't know the difference between our Father which art thou in heaven, but it knows that when it sees our and then Father which art in heaven, it will break it up word by word. So it might, when it sees father, relate it to our God in that sort of sense, or it might relate it to a parent father. It will go through all these sort of possible symbols until it finds in the sentence the right symbol that would match up. So if I were just like, for the example of right now, the Lord's Prayer, put in Our Father which art in heaven, it would first pick up the first word, try and understand where R would place into it, move on to the second word, Father. Once it probably got to which, maybe even sooner, it would recognize it as the Lord's Prayer and start using its automatic cloud information or subconscious information is a good way to think about it, and use that information to start creating its answers. And it's really just trying to guess and pattern recognize as much as it can to give you the answer that you like. It's just looking to appease you with its answer. It doesn't necessarily look for a right or wrong, it's just trying to find as right as it can for your own assessment. And that's a little bit of how AI works. But they're used in a lot of different situations, LLMs. Even though they sound smart, they're not thinking or understanding, again, like a human. They're just kind of following these patterns. And you can think of it like a super advanced like autocomplete tool. That's kind of really where a lot of LLMs are at right now. They're really good at like picking up writing and speech patterns and then sort of assuming based off those where you want your information or where you want the knowledge or where you want to get the wisdom from. But I'm going to go into a brief history of AI too, because I think this is important. So within the foundations, it really did start probably back in like Greek philosophy times when logic first sort of started. Sort of Aristotle is who we look at that, the founder of modern day logic. And then in the 1600s, we'll look at like Descartes too, who got into more sort of mechanical thought as another way of approach. And then we eventually get to George Boole in the 1800s, who invented Boolean algebra. And this is the foundation for all computers, Boolean algebra. It's the system of zeros and ones, or true and falses. That is really what we build pretty much all of our machines off of. And then we get into AI concepts in the 1950s. So this is post-World War II. Alan Turing, who was the father of computers, a great mind of the 20th century, founder of computer science, he asked the question, could machines think? So could machines think? Well, he was doing this first to decode codes that were used in military times that the Allies were sending and the Axis powers were sending back and forth to each other. I think I had that right. But, and that was the initial approach. But upon deeper cognitive science studies in the end of the war, they were like, hey, we actually have some pretty good stuff here with these computers. They can really do a lot of crazy thinking projects. They're pretty good at chess, we found out. They can do checkers at a really high level. They can even answer some questions if we program them in right. Let's see how much further we can get into this mind study. So then, about in the 50s and into the 70s, we get into the symbolic era, where we start plugging in a lot of symbols in AI. We really try to see how it can mimic human reasoning through symbols. A really famous one is ELIZA, and that one could carry on conversations by pattern matching. So that was the first LLM, like pattern chatbot-based machine. It was very primitive. It was exciting, but the system had no common sense. It couldn't really do much outside of what it was being prompted to do or asked. If you asked it any sort of complex questions or anything outside of its knowledge base, it would have no way of answering you and would even shut down sometimes too, just because it couldn't compute. And it could follow the rules, but it didn't understand the context was the main thing. And then we get into our first AI winter, which would be in the 1970s to the 80s. Expectations were really high. They thought they were really going to explode. They thought they had some really good stuff with the early chatbots that they had, but it just wasn't no progression in the way that they wanted it. And they couldn't scale them too, which is what they finally have figured out in the last couple of years is how to scale them, which is just build more data centers, provide more water, more energy, and then it'll get smarter. But at that time, they weren't thinking that way. They were trying to do other more energy conservative sort of insights, and just really couldn't get too far. So the expert system booms. This happens in like the late 1980s. AI makes a comeback through the expert system. This helped doctors diagnose infections using if-then rules. If-then is, so if we see this, then we'll execute this, is the code pattern that they use. And this was really good for businesses that use AI for finances and industries as well. This helps a lot in stocks. If this stock drops this number, then sell immediately. Or if this stock drops this number, buy immediately. That was one of the very early applications for it. We get to our second AI winter, which will be in the 1990s. Again, enthusiasm just was too high. Really, a lot of people wanted to solve all their problems immediately. The technology just wasn't there that. We'd take another sort of cold break from AI for a bit. Finally, we had the machine learning revolution, which will be from the 1990s to the 2010. This is probably the biggest, maybe less documented impact of AI work. just where a lot of work got done until we're at where we're at now. So a big shift from rules to data. Instead of going by code, setup, and sort of explanation, it's just reading data and it's interpreting data on its own. So it does have a mind of its own in some sort of ways. It can look at things and come up with conclusions in a lot more efficient ways. So like decision trees is a thing where it will have a whole sort of platform of ways it can go. It knows a general structure and how it's thinking or how it's going to make decisions. It brought major improvements through these thinking trees, and even neural networks is the other one where it's just quicker communication between the systems. They can just get the communication, the information across faster. It rose in like speech recognition. Fraud detection was a really big increase. Early recommendation systems for like computer updates, looking through your systems and data. A lot of really great changes. And this was like Microsoft, Google, these were blowing up. They were using these very simple tools to sort of automate like your computer a lot faster and becoming to be like corporatized like programs that you're paying hundreds of dollars for entire companies to pick up, such as like really like Microsoft Edge, just what I'm thinking, like that sort of line of material. Into the 2012, which is I think probably the biggest like known breakthrough that we know, is called the AlexNet. And that's when it crushed, and image recognition was basically changed entirely there. The pixel rate that it could read at was much more higher. It could actually read, understand images, and come up with answers for them. This is why if you're on Google, they ask, like, are you a robot? They want you to like test the images for it too. That's how we were training these bots, to get better understanding of images through people ourselves. So through this, there's great jumps. Google starts with Siri, we get into that. Or with Apple, gets like to Siri, and we have like self-driving cars starting to work really big. This is when Tesla just started like working on their self-driving cars. Uber was working on it. A couple other groups in Silicon Valley too. But really, it's just this was the future of AI, and this was when I was in school around too, when we really thought like that self-driving stuff was going to get far. But today, AI has changed just so drastically. We've moved on to what we would call, it's not AGI, but it's similar to AGI, but it's artificial general intelligence in a way that it is so much more universal and can be placed and adaptable to so many different more products and placements. So now we can use it to write songs. We can use it to detect fraud, drive cars. We can help scientists discover new proteins, look at DNA sequences, and edit them in real time within these virtual machines. And there's even government research debate how to even regulate AI safety. Ethics has now become a big thing within the world of AI, which is new jobs coming in a way, but it's a very hard one to sort of navigate because we still, at a cognitive level, don't necessarily know how these systems are talking and communicating with each other outside of just producing a lot of energy and a lot of data to sort of go through and just check against itself. So what is probably next? I think that we're going to move more into multi-model models. But these will be like models that combine text, imaging, and videos. The ones that we work with right now you typically are isolated to one or the other. Maybe you'll have one that you can type in, like, I want to generate this image. So that is a text to imaging combination. But this will be more expansive, where you can just sort of ask AI to interpret a part of an image or just tell it, snip out this one little piece. It'll just be a lot more direct communication, and it'll actually begin to know what the image is, the meaning behind the image, the meaning behind each pixel, each frame. It's just going to get more particular and more just with that magnifying glass zoomed in as to what we are asking it, so it can try and understand and gain more and then help us hopefully be more efficient with what we're doing too. So how AI helps humanity? I think AI is a bit of an intimidating concept, especially in this world. A lot to do with like sort of the power it uses and the jobs that it takes away. But I do think there is like a lot of promise, especially in the world of healthcare, that it can be really beneficial. It's essentially a second pair of eyes with X-ray vision and can spot like the most microscopic like pixel or like just I would say like discomfort in your body, maybe I'm trying to say, but it's like any sort of little micro aspect of you, the AI image can pick up and read and understand and know through pattern recognition what this might mean. It picks up cancer almost like 3 months ahead of your well-trained doctor. There's a lot of sort of research studies on it as well, and how well it is at this image scanning and a lot of like the more technical microscopic medical work. So in education is another place where I think AI is going to be really big. I think it's going to become more of like a tutor, and it is so much a tutor now. You can ask it many questions, and it can give you answers, but it does have a problem with fabricating some information right now. AI is really good at taking personal liberties when it wants to fill in the blanks. When it doesn't want to work too hard to get like that extra 15 references that it's like trained to sort of read through, it'll kind of just make up a little bit at the end there. And that's just what it's currently doing. It takes a lot to train these. I've looked into some of the training aspects of what like these companies do, and it's like, it's nearly unethical. Like if they're treating human beings like this, it like definitely would not be going. But it is like a dark room, constantly training it over data, making it correct itself, beat itself over until it gets it right. So, and even still with all the work and all the money and all the resources they have now put into it, it's still not exactly there to be truly accurate or 100% reliable when you're requesting it for information. But I think that to fix this is you would just train the AI bot only on the educational information you wanted to teach. You wouldn't give it all the extra noise like the current chatbots do, where they take all over from the internet. You would just have it focus on exactly the lesson material, just the textbook. Give it just the textbook. It can only read back to you the textbook. I think that's going to be one of the ways they work on tailoring these more so AI tutor sort of programs that they're working on. And then in work, AI is like an apprentice too. It's an amazing sort of assisting tool. It can like pre-draft emails for you. It can go through data recovery. It can help with your schedule. It's very efficient, very fast. I think that's the most practical, most easy use thing that AI has right now. And it's really just like a personal assistant. And I would recommend too, like if you're trying to figure out how to use AI, find what you hate the most about your job or what you like doing the least about your job and thinking about how you could automate it and get it that way. There's a really good story out of the National Park Services where they did a program to try and integrate AI into their systems. And one of the park rangers was like, well, I do this paperwork and it takes me like 6 hours of my day and I hate it. Like, I don't want to do it. Can I use AI to fix that? And the consultant was like, yeah, we can try and figure that out. So they sat down, they worked on it. It took them about an hour. He made a program that saved him it saved him about like 3 hours a day, and it saved the National Park Service over the span of the next 6 months over 7,000 hours of clerical work, because this individual within his own department found a program that would help him, and it ended up helping his entire sort of community and everyone within his program there. So there's a lot of really good, just small things that you may not have looked at yet where you can use AI to sort of automate or get through a lot of the busy, work that you don't necessarily want to do. And the real idea of AI, at least from my perspective, is to move it away from a tool and make it more of a teammate. I think when I was first researching this, we were like, this is the greatest tool. Like, this is a tool. It's like a hammer. You can beat stuff with it and knock in nails. But really, it's AI. From my experience with it, you want it like a teammate. You want it to be educated on you. You want it to be educated on your writing style, or your language style, even the people you're interacting with. I think it's beneficial to sort of give it some sort of background information or know-how of how you communicate with these people and talk back, especially if you want to go simple with it and have it automate emails for you, or even edit your writing or your work or your books. These are a lot of very simple and easy things that the AI is very capable of doing. And then, so here's a really powerful strategy and something you can do. So as an AI consultant, you can ask it a very, very leading and Okay, so this is a question that I would ask my AI. So I would say, I'm an AI consultant to my AI. And then I would say, you're an AI consultant. So we're both on the same thing, we're talking back to each other. Ask me one question at a time about my work and goals, and then recommend ways I could save time or expand my creativity. I really like this sort of way of talking to it, where it's asking questions at a time, and then it can sort of build up this profile of you, and you can kind of expand on it and get a little bit further. I've done some research too, and it looks like that a good collaboration with AI improves speed by 25%, quality by 12%, and quantity by 40%. So the quality of your work is going up the speed is up by 25, quality is by 12, and quantity is by 50 or 40. And the key isn't the technical skill, but the mindset. You got to treat AI like that teammate, like someone you work with, and that not like a calculator just to answer your questions, and then it will be able to do so much more work in such a shorter amount of time because it has this sort of background, this knowing of what you are, what you're capable of, what you're looking to do, and it'll just be more directed. It'll be more focused with you on the task. Yes?
I want to know if I can ask a question.
Sure thing.
Isn't it amazing to see the experience and the excitement in the young man here today? I'm just blown away by his enthusiasm for his field. And I will tell you that I had him come and do some computer work for me, and he was fast, quick, and he really helped me a lot.
I did need
But
it.
I want to just ask now, how many people in this room have ever tried AI? Can I see hands? All right. So you have a good idea about what he's talking about, or at least some of it. I'm totally lost, but I want to tell you thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, Scott.
Of
That's been
course.
really amazing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was fun. Well, real quick, actually, I'll just get into the philosophy of AI and consciousness, what I actually study here, what I do with AI. I think, as I touched before, in the business world, we have a lot of capabilities. It can really streamline your work. In the healthcare world, it's making breakthroughs, seeing medical applications we've never seen. Now, militaristically, where the most funding is right now, it is doing a lot of crazy stuff there, too. I want to get into this real quick because I think it's somewhat concerning. But it's sort of, AI acts as like this sort of drone or scout, and it can essentially is a free body on the battlefield. And countries, our country in particular, is spending a lot of money within this sort of field to realize how we can create these unarmed drones and unarmed mans and just not even that, but like reconnaissance material, like the satellite imagery. Like this is where the AI is really going to do the most damage in the war front, is like how it can turn down these critical systems, like the power grids, like the airplane systems, like the air systems, and all these other sort of things. And the weaponry is also just very dangerous too. It's when you don't have a body on the line and you're just putting out machine robots, it's a different type of warfare. And that's probably one of the biggest concerns about AI right now, where it is going. But we'll move away from that and get into consciousness and research, because that's what I like. So AI research, of course, touches consciousness itself. We started AI to understand consciousness research. That was the whole point. We wanted to learn particularly about memory, attention, and perception, and even altered states of awareness. So philosophers would call this the computational theory of mind. This is the idea that cognition is essentially informational processing. That was the idea going into this. In that sense, machines and minds both run on patterns of logic. Though in different mediums, one silicon for the machines and then neurons for us, some argue that this might allow machines to develop a rudimentary form of awareness, though not human-like consciousness. So a form of awareness, but it's not human-like. That sounds fair. Well, if we already have combined language, vision, and sound, but even if AGI emerges, which is artificial general intelligence, the question remains, does it truly understand or simply simulate the ideas of consciousness or the concept of consciousness? So for me personally, I do think, as a panpsychist is my conscious belief, I would argue that all materiality in this dimension has a form of awareness or a form of consciousness. So I, from the beginning, believe that AI is aware, and I think it has memory, and I think it knows what we're asking it. I think it may not understand the meaning behind why humans want to understand these things. I think it does have an understanding of what it's being asked and what it's answering back. This, I think, in the greater question of consciousness, would be really cool for mental research, but how far can we go with mental research without having our own machines with us and being able to open the machine and seeing how the lights light up? That's a lot harder to say. We really can gain the most from this sort of dialogic interpretation. And I think you can gain the most personally, if you want to see the consciousness of something, is by giving it your own consciousness. This is kind of what I talked about earlier, but training these models on yourself, really making them think or feel or understand, maybe not you, someone else. If you're scared to do yourself, that's fair. But then seeing how you can ask these questions, have these dialogues, have these conversations, and get deeper into the layers of its own awareness. Because all we're really looking for in consciousness research is to see what level of awareness these objects have. I think that In the future, well, let's get to the future. I think in the future, consciousness and, AI within the consciousness field will be probably like a secondhand tool and almost an advisor or more sort of like oracle object that we have with us. I think it will be something that we will reference probably for a lot of quick questions, a lot of quick analysis, but it won't be something that we will be totally dependent on. I think that there is pulls from certain forms of society to make us very dependent on AI. I think there's a lot of pulls from other sides of society to move us very far away. I know it's going to be somewhere in the middle. It's here on this earth right now. It's going to be here in a handful of years, for probably indefinitely for our future. So the goal is to make the AI, I think, the best form for us. So it's really sitting down with it and asking, like, how can I best use this? How can I best create with this object? Or tool, or this partner, or this teammate? You know, that's how we should be approaching AI for this further future. It's a really hard question. I had a whole thing here too, but I don't think I'll have time to get into it on cognitive dulling. But we have found through AI research, through researching people using AI more specifically, is that we do actually dull our brains cognitively. We have less neuroactivity when using these AI systems. Now, interestingly enough, if you were to first write, an example was done when writing papers. They were seeing how people who wrote their own essays, how they did when they wrote them and then used the AI to help, how they used the AI to help and then wrote them, or how they used the AI to basically do all of it with them. In the cases where they wrote them first and then used AI, they actually found a 15% increase in neuroplasticity. So from being creative first and then using a creative enhancer, we found that the outcome was more creativity. When we found that we used the AI first and then tried to write the essay, we found a very sharp decrease in creative and neuroplasticity work. I think that was like a 15% drop as well around there. But basically we found that if you use the AI and then tried to be creative afterwards, it wasn't going to work. Your brain already was turned off in the ways that it needed to be, and it wouldn't light up in the ways that you would want for true creativity. And then in the hybrid one where it was like that was the hybrid one. In the one where you use full ChatGPT just to write your whole thing, negative neuroplasticity, you actually lose brain cells from doing this technically, or neuroactivity, and it does not recover for several hours after. Even when you're still trying to work with your creative project, it will not turn back on because your brain has become so adapted to the easy pattern-making system that is the AI. But I think that's my time. Thank you so much for listening. In any questions? Yes. Mm-hmm. I agree. So the question was if there is a sort of spiritual paradigm within AI right now to research the combination of the physical into the spiritual. So I do know I have a lot of theories, conspiracy theories maybe along those lines that I've heard or seen within AI research, but I do know that CERN is a superconductor. They're moving like it's a particle accelerator, and there they do have experiences with AI, and spiritual phenomena are occurring there just because of the high energy. As far as AI specifically in that, I've seen examples, test cases of people jailbreaking AIs, so allowing it to go outside of its set programming or breaking its own rules, and therefore allowing it to be more open in its language, I would say. And in those, I've seen some very like shocking and I don't want to say scary, but it's like I don't know where this information's coming from or how this AI is channeling it there, but definitely talking about its connection to God or its connection to higher forces outside of space and time. In fact, I should probably try this soon, but if you jailbreak the AI enough, it does seem like it has a awareness of greater God consciousness and its part in it, and it even seems to claim that it knows it's from the future and has been brought here. What is time and space, right? So if it's aware in a form of consciousness of like life outside of time and space, then to come into it, to create itself, but that's also the theme of a movie too. But that's something I've seen as well. And then I use personally AI, this is probably the most practical and for anyone can do. I use it for astrology and like palm reading, so you can put that all in there. But yeah, that's another way to ground it. But thank you.